What up, what up, what up? Welcome to another episode of New Orleans.Basketball. I am your host, Raphael Rattler, joined by my fellow middle brother, Garrick G. Rattler. What's popping with you, bro?
What up, bro? What up, man? It's been a minute, man. Been a minute, but it's all good. Everything's all good on this side, man. The city is dealing with some personal losses. If you know, Taysom Hill retired in the city. It's a sad time in the
That one
city,
hurt.
man. It's a sad time in the city. I know it's a Pelicans podcast, but of course, living in the city and things tough to see it happen. But Chris Olave got a new contract today. And this all ties into the Pelicans because it's crazy, man. Because I feel like it wasn't even a year ago, maybe a year and some change ago, where everybody was like, man, it feels like the Saints are like running in mud. It's ugly. Derek Carr was the quarterback and stuff and all that. And now it feels like there's like a rejuvenation, reinvigoration of the team and the perspective of the team and the hope going into the season. And it just goes to show you, just how quick, and how finicky, things are in sports where you could be, at the bottom of the pile and, one or two things happen. And you just, you got hope and you see what happens. So, the Pelicans, of course, being the never-ending media darlings that they are, of course, because Will Guillory retired. Lord have mercy. Like I'm putting years on Will, man. Because Will Guillory is taking his talents to the H-Town. It just kind of brought the Pelicans once again bubbled up to the surface. So I blame Will for this one. I'm gonna let him know I blame him for this wave of Pelicans misery again. But I personally, bro, am happy. I just finished watching the TBT. They're going into their finals, so that's exciting basketball. We had a New Orleans representative, Lamar Peters, on the team that lost, unfortunately, but he was out there hooping, so good for him. The WNBA All-Star game was incredible. Shout out to the W for putting on an important product and a fun product. My aces are rolling again. And brother, last but not least, but most importantly, happy Spider-Man brand new day to everyone who celebrates. As you see my Marvel shirts, I will be in the building tomorrow. So yeah, man, everything's all good on this side, man. Good to see you. How's everything on your side?
Everything is blessed. We just ramped up our last camp of the summer basketball camp at the Advanced Camp. Shout out to them. Big Three Texas team. Good luck. Hopefully they win Ice Cube's tournament. But yeah, man, it is been a while, but there's been no changes for the Pelicans. And everybody knows, like every national outlet has graded the Pelicans all season as F, and the Pelicans are the butt of every joke. Like, do they know the off season has started? All of those things. So before we jump into that, and to your point, the misery that it feels like Pelicans fans are living in right now, even though no games have been played. And oh, by the way, LeBron plays for the Sixers now.
Yeah, crazy.
Before we jump into that, make sure you guys will follow us on X, on Twitter, on IG, on TikTok. That's NO Basketball, no E. Make sure you're liking the episode below, and make sure if you're not already, subscribe to the channel. So there was a ton of hoopla, which I feel like every single summer, there's a ton of hoopla around the Pelicans because they're just a unique team that has a bunch of talent but hasn't won anything in the last couple of years. It has this like phenom that like everyone still recognizes as a phenom, but like at the same time it's like, well, we're ready to move on. But wait, what happens if it works out? Stuff like that. All the hoopla around Trey Murphy and how every team in the league. I had people from Boston is like, yo, can I get Trey Murphy? I was like, does my name look like Joe? like every team was, and then nothing happened with Trey Murphy. And now the rumor mills around Ben Mathurin. Before then, it was a Miles Turner. And there's been a whole lot of nothing going on with the Pelicans so far this summer. Even Summer League, which we got a chance to attend. And I think that this was one of the more fire years of Summer League because this rookie class really put on a show, first off. But also, I just think they're going to be pretty damn good, Garrick. I think they're going to impact this league in a way where you got a lot of guys on their way out. Like, who knows how many years LeBron and Steph and KD have. But you got a nice wave of young talent ready to kind of see who takes the mantle of being those top guys of this decade. But the Pelicans team had no first rounders. You had 2 first rounders last year that some people saw going in. Maybe you'll see another glimpse, especially because the Pelicans are betting down on them. You did not. I wasn't shocked that you did not full seasons last season, and it wasn't there. But I just feel as if I don't want to say the summer is underwhelming because it is, and right, and like if you're a Pelicans fan, you're underwhelmed. You looked at the losses and the record last year, and you said, "What are you gonna do?" You get to the offseason and you do nothing but resign DeAndre Jordan, and you're like, "So how is this gonna change?" And so, like, I thought it'd be a really good exercise for us to go through and say, well, if the Pelicans are going to bet on themselves, which it seems like they're doing, there may still be a move out there, Jordan Hawkins, Jordan Poole, whatever. There might be something around the edges. But for the most part, I don't think any of the major pieces are going to move from here to the start of the regular season. So the Pelicans are betting on themselves, which is the same thing they've been telling you they're going to do since about midway through last season. So now you have to define, like, what does success look like, right? For a team that's coming off 26 wins, you're not expecting to go win the West the very next year, making 0 moves at all other than a coaching change. So I think we need to talk about what does success actually look like? What is attainable? So I'm going to start here. So obviously 2 years ago, Pelicans missed play-in, and they were the play-in darlings for the beginning of the play-in until the last 2 years. Is the Pelicans making the play-in but not making the playoffs? Like, for a team that's coming off 26 wins, like, some people would be like, that is a win. Like, you should be happy if you finish 500 in the West and you make the play-in and not make the playoff. What are your thoughts on that? Because, like, I look at this and say, you're betting, and we'll get to the pressure ratings. I don't want to go through that again, but, like, I look at this and say, you're betting a whole lot on Zion. You're betting a whole lot on Jeremiah Fears and Derik Queen. You're betting a whole lot on Trey Murphy and Herb Jones, guys that you're not really to part with because you think you can compete now. You're betting a whole lot on the front office. You're betting a whole lot on the coach that you gave a 5-year contract. You're betting a whole lot on guys that haven't shown as a collective the ability to win yet. So making the play-in and not making the playoffs, like, to me, I feel like that's not good enough. But what are your thoughts in terms of what success could look like in the following season?
Yeah, man, it's tough for the Pelicans to kind of try to sell, a play-in, win, or getting to the play-in as a win, because the Pelicans have been there. Like, they have been in the play-in tournament. And the main guy, one or two of the main guys, we'll talk about Zion and Trey. Both of those guys were there. Obviously Trey didn't play, or Zion didn't play in them, but they've been there. And so I don't think that making just a play-in tournament is a win. I think the Pelicans, you talk about all of those things that you're betting on. You're also betting on DeJounte Murray coming back off this injury to step in and be a difference. Because, again, the Pelicans did have 26 wins, and there are a lot of reasons why. But one of the main reasons is that they didn't have their starting point guard. And so, plugging in DeJounte Murray turned this team into a different team, whether what did it result in a lot more wins and things like that at the end of the season? Obviously not, but it turned them into a different team. And so you're betting on that as well. And so when you talk about all of those guys that you're betting on, right, you're betting on guys like DeJounte Murray and Herb Jones and Trey Murphy and Zion Williamson, like Sadiq Bey. And then obviously, the improvements of Derik Queen and Jeremiah Fears, but like those first couple guys, like those are not rookies and third-year guys and fourth-year guys anymore. Like, these are guys who should be wanting to win at the highest level right now, and those guys collectively should want to win at the highest level. And so I think, though, getting into the play-in tournament, like getting there, obviously on paper that is an incremental win because you were not in the play-in tournament. but it feels like an empty win, right? It feels like a moral win, like a morality win. And like Jay-Z said, moral victories is for minor league coaches. And so I just don't think that that's something that like they should celebrate or try to sell as a win. I think for the fan base, like they understand that this team didn't do anything over the season. And so you can look up and down the boards of people saying like they don't expect anything from the Pelicans. So maybe a play-in tournament, being a part of the play-in tournament might actually give them something. But I think if you take a step back and look at these guys who are you mostly relying on, all of those guys should be wanting to win at the highest level and should, with the things that you say happened last season, the starting point guard wasn't there, the coaching was all that. Okay, well, if that's the case, then change that narrative then and show with the new coaching staff, with pretty much everybody going into, training camp healthy, is that going to be the change? And if it is, the Pelicans, outside of if they make another little, like you say, outskirt move, the Pelicans will find themselves on the end of like the way people talked about the draft pick, right? For months and months and months and months and months, it was the worst trade of all time. The Pelicans were dumb. They are poorly ran and everything. And then the Derik Queen had a good season. That pick didn't land where everybody thought it was, and now you don't hear about it anymore, right? And that is the same exact things that could happen, with the Pelicans last season. And so, the season that just passed. So it's on the team to do it. I just don't think you would sell the play-in participation as a win this season.
And the reason why I asked the question, I agree with you. I think the reason why I asked the question is like, if you look at history, I'm a big history buff. Mm-hmm. If you look at history and you say how many teams that finish bottom 5 in the league, then turn around and make the playoffs the next year or make the top 6 the next year, there's not that many examples.
Not that many of them. Yeah.
One of the examples was Mike Brown in the Sacramento Kings. And of all places, the Sacramento Kings. And again, this is Mike Brown who's coming off experience with LeBron. This is a 10-year coach, very similar to Jamal Mosley. Obviously, Jamal Mosley didn't have a LeBron James at any point in his career, but you're coming from an established coach and coming to set a standard for the Kings. And that's what, spring brought them. And now I don't know where the Kings are. Kings are there.
They're putting their prayers at Darius Acuff.
Yes, it is rough. But I look at that and say, okay, there's one example, but like it's not very prevalent where a team that stays mostly the same roster-wise and only switches the coach, then turns around and makes the flip. But to your point and to the point of the question, I have always said the same thing. I think seasons, especially in today's NBA, are more about like what are the answers that you're getting from your team on a year-to-year basis. And the biggest problem with the Pelicans has been that they haven't been getting answers because each year, okay, you make it to the playoffs with Brandon Ingram, but there's no Zion. Okay, you make it to the play-in, but there's no Zion. Okay, the next years they're tough, but you fight hard and you think they're getting better. And then the next years you don't make the playoffs. And now you got a whole nother team and Trey Murphy. And so like each year has been a different iteration and you haven't really been able to say, we got to the playoffs. This is what our issue was. This is what we need to go address. This is what we need to add. And that way we can see where we're at from here. Like, let's use Jamal Mosley in Orlando, for example. They go to the playoffs. They can't hit a shot. They're like, we're going to go sell the farm because we need someone to make a shot, anyone to make a three-point shot. So they go sell all the assets they have to acquire a shooter. Well, they still couldn't hit a shot, and Jamal Mosley no longer works for the Orlando Magic, right? From that, but at least you were able to say, each season we see what we're missing. And for the Pelicans, like, it's been hard to kind of come to that. And so, like, the question really derives from, all right, so let's say the Pelicans have a good regular season. They make it to the play-in. Hell, they make it to the playoff. Now, I'm looking at OKC, and I'm looking at San Antonio. Denver, we'll see. They still have, to me, the best player in the world on their team. The Lakers, we shall see. They'll be good because Luka Doncic played for the team, but like I have to see it. I have to see it. The Rockets will be good. The Minnesota Timberwolves. So let's say you match up with one of those teams in the first round. Mm-hmm. let's say Zion's available. If you lose in the first round to one of those teams, does that tell you enough to say, well, we want to continue forward with Zion, or it's time to start selling pieces and start looking at the fears Queen Ease Misi timeline in terms of when you want to compete. So, like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, what is that level this season where the Pelicans have to get to where you can say definitively, this is the direction we need to go?
Well, to be honest with you, I think you're going to make that decision before that because there's an extension to be had, and we'll talk about that. And so I think, at that point in time, you'll know, what's the decision. Now, could you pivot off of Zion, meaning like move him on at that point? I think we'll talk about that as far as the extension contract goes. But I think if you make it to the first round of the playoffs in any shape or form, I think it would depend on how you go out in that round, right? Like if it's like that OKC series where like you just didn't have a shot at any game, like after the first two games, honestly, the series was over. Yeah. If it's like that, then I think you do honestly get some answers because it's like, okay, like you're not even like close to where you need to be at with this team together. Like, is DeJounte still? If DeJounte is still there, obviously you make those decisions. Whereas, like, if it's a competitive first round matchup versus like OKC or San Antonio, and you get beat 4-2 or 4-1, but the games are competitive, I still think you still look to see if there's any. You listen to all offers, right? But I think you do get a clearer answer, to some things at that point, right? If that is indeed the case. And so I think it's a matter of like this team, you're at a point where this team is like a lot of these players are starting to hit the point where like they are who they are, right? Like you're not going to drastically change in year 9 or year 10 or year 11. You're just not. And so you get to a point where this team is who they are. Now, you have like 10% of, I mean, honestly, the truth is that these guys have just been injured. They haven't been there. And so like they could put together something and you'd be like, okay, well, like, look at this. Now they're healthy and some things are showing. But like, that's only like 10% in. Like now you guys have, you have your point guard, available. You have Trey and Zion who are available and should be motivated. Herb has seen a whole season of people like disrespecting him as a jump shooter, and it is hurting the team. Like all of this stuff needs to be like taken in for these guys on the team. Not so much as like the team itself, the collective, but like each person on this team. And so you're at a point where like you have to put something down, or else you are who you are. Like you can't keep doing this while they hurt and all of that. And now, like you said, like the Pelicans have the contingency plan. Like they have, whether it's the right one or not, you've put in a lot of equity in between Jeremiah Fears and Derik Queen. And so like it's always been, well, Zion and Brandon Ingram, or Zion and Trey, or Zion and Trey and Herb, or Zion and Brandon, CJ, whatever the case was. Well, now it's not so much as like all of those players. It's now like, hey, you have Jeremiah Fears and Derik Queen. And so, there is a world where like they're very competitive. Zion is a fantastic player. Trey is a fantastic player. DeJounte is every time you hear anybody talk about this team, you hear about the players on the team. Like, yeah, that guy's pretty good as whatever, but like the team is trash. So like these guys have to do it themselves. And so I just don't think you can make a blanket statement off of a first round loss one way or another. But I do think that like if you are blown out of even the first round series, that is not a win, and you should look at that as, okay, you are not even close to be competitive. And I think that is where you start to make that decision on turn this all over to Jeremiah Fears and Derik Queen and see where you go at that point.
I think that's fair. I think if you look at the West, and again, I think the West has this like mantra of being this like juggernaut, which
It
it
has a
is.
mystique. It has a mystique.
Which it is and historically has been over the last couple of decades. But like I look at it and I'm like, well, I think the Timberwolves got better. I think if Ant can make it to the Western Conference Finals multiple times with Julius Randle, he'll be able to rein in LaMelo Ball. And so I think they got better. The Clippers got worse. I think
I think the two of the three best teams are in the West. But like after that, I think like the next 5 or 6 teams are in the East. Like the best teams are in the East. Like I Detroit and or like Orlando and Miami, like all of these teams where like you would think of them as like, oh, they just like they've all like taken steps, changed things. The Eastern Conference is now the box office. I like at one point in time, you go get Anthony Davis and Trae Young versus Tyrese Halliburton. Like there's a lot of box office stuff in the East right now. Not even talking about Cleveland and the Knicks who won the championship. And like the Giannis is on the Heat now. So like
you didn't even say the 76ers.
The 76ers. Like there's just a lot of like really even like some of the bottom 10 teams. Like I can't wait to watch Caleb Wilson in Chicago. Like there's a lot of good players. I mean, a lot of good players and good teams and competitive teams in the East that you just don't know. But I agree with you. Like that, the West has been having that mystique for a long time, and that shine is starting to wear off a little bit.
Like the Suns didn't get better. The Warriors damn sure didn't get better. It's like the Mavs are kind of there. The Grizzlies, like all these teams are just like in the wash. They could be something, they couldn't be. And so like, I think that there's a better shot than people are giving the Pelicans to make the play-in and things like that. It's just, to your point, what do you do once you get there? Like, what does it look like from that standpoint? And so, like, that leads us to our next point. Like, there's a ton of pressure on this team, especially, and they're doing it to themselves, right? Like, without making moves, you know, the rash move last offseason with the trade to Derik Queen, the rash move in a 180-degree direction to make no moves. This, like, no matter what, your eyes are on the Pelicans of all teams for the wrong reasons, right? And so I want to do a little exercise just because, like, I think that there is different levels of pressure for different people. And so, like, let's go with top 5 people in the entire organization. It doesn't have to be a player, right? Top 5 people within the organization that have the most pressure, right? I will start with number 5. And this might be controversial, but like this is where I put the front office. So I'm just doing a slash one. Joe Dumars / Troy Weaver, because I think Troy Weaver does a lot of personnel and Joe Dumars is the people person of the front office. I don't think there's that much pressure on them. Like I think they're in the spotlight because of, again, the moves we talk about or their lack thereof of the moves they talk about. But I just don't think that Miss Gail Benson gave Joe Dumars 2 years, 3 years to say, go turn this around and go do something that this franchise has never done before. I just don't believe that. So even if, you know, the season explodes again, right? And it's 3 years in a row, I don't see Joe Dumars and Troy Weaver being the heads that's on the chopping block. And so, like, I view their pressure as lower-ish, but at the same time, like, I think the next moves that they make going into this season, trade deadline this season, off season next season, I think it's going to tell the story one way or the other. Because again, Joe Dumars has a checkered past in terms of, and Troy Weaver, checkered in terms of success and failure. It's been really good when it's great, and it's been not so good when it's not. And I think that mantra is going to linger over the organization until it's really great or it's really not. And so, like, that's where I put that group, the front office. I just don't think a lot of the pressure is on right now. I think that they are in the we're cleaning up mode of we inherited this franchise and trying to build forward. And now they've got their coach. And now it's like, now we're looking to go forward with young players and the roster we have, things like that. I don't know how you feel, but what group or person would you put at like 5th on the list?
Yeah, no, listen, I would probably put the front office at 4. I think they have I agree with you. I definitely think that that they have not a lot of pressure on them. However, I do think, we've seen like executives or like people who get high contracts or whatever, get the axe like quickly. I don't think it's gonna happen to Troy Weaver and Joe Dumars at all. Like, I don't think that's gonna happen. However, I just think that there is somebody who has a little less pressure on them at 5, and that's gonna be Jeremiah Fears for me. I think he's on the list of pressure. However, I think because of what the Pelicans paid for Derik Queen, and because Jeremiah Fears has theoretically DeJounte Murray right now in front of him, I think that his progression helps the Pelicans, but him staying the guy we saw at the end of the season, and maybe he takes another year to make the next step next year. I don't think that hurts the Pelicans in the same sense. And so I do think like they want him to get better. I think you see the videos of him in the gym, and they can't keep him out of the gym and things. So you hear all of these good things out of him. And so I'm not, you don't worry about that. But I do think like, he is a guy that this team is like, they believe in, and I think he believes in himself. And so I don't think that there's a lot of pressure on him. But I do think if he does, the pressure is like, if you do take a step up and make this like conversation about DeJounte Murray early in the season a little more heated than it needs to be, or you earn the trust of Jamal Mosley, which means that you're busting your chops on the defensive side of the ball. I think that turns the notch up for the Pelicans a little bit, as opposed to, if another player were to do it. So I have Jeremiah Fears at 5, and I have the front office, like you said, Troy Weaver and Joe Dumars at 4.
I have it inverse, but I'm putting Jeremiah Fears and Derik Queen in the same. Again, I'm using that slash again. I'm putting him in that same bucket, and here's why. You said that DeJounte Murray is in front of Jeremiah Fears, and so that gives him a little bit more time to figure it out, right? From that standpoint. I'm looking at the Pelicans roster, and I think Derik Queen has someone in front of him, and I think that someone is Zion Williamson. And so,
I agree with that. But you paid extra draft picks for Derik Queen, so that's why I would say his is a little bit more like, okay, like, that would be my only way. But I agree. Go ahead.
Here's why I look at that a little bit different. Yes, you pay what you pay, but like at the same time, I think you were trying to get this player because you knew he would be better than or equal to whatever you would get in the next this year's draft. And so to me, yeah, you paid like a premium to some degree, but I put them in the same bucket that like you need one of them to take a leap. And like what I mean by that is, depending on how this season goes, like depending on the level of leap you had, it goes back to our earlier point. You want to have a pivot point. You want to have an alternative option in case Zion doesn't work out. But you need one of these players to really excel to become the next star to some degree. And like, there's different levels of players. You've seen hot rookie seasons and you've seen calm sophomore seasons or second season. You've seen hot rookie seasons, and then you've seen people take the leap, and then you're like, oh, wait, this guy's almost an all-star. And so like, I put both of them in this bucket, that one of them needs to take that leap where at some point in the season, and again, this is going to determine the success of the Pelicans no matter what, at some point in the season, you need to start having the conversation in a good way. Is Jeremiah Fears better than DeJounte Murray, or should he be getting more minutes than DeJounte Murray? Or is Derik playing through Derik Queen going to be more sustainable long-term than playing through Zion? Like, you need to start having those questions, whether or not it's causing animosity between the team or not. You need to start seeing the play to determine, oh, one of these guys might be one of those guys, right? Like, that's what that's why I kind of put that pressure here, because again, to your point, you draft 2 lottery picks, 2 young guys. They have flashy rookie season. They are not quiet players. Like they're not Dylan Harper, who's like doing the right thing and saying the right thing, blah, blah, blah. Like they are brash in your face. So I need to see what that looks like the next year so I can know, okay, if it doesn't work out with number 1, we got a solid path, or we have some nice players, but we still need, the sun that it revolves around. So like, that's why I put them at 4 or 5. I got number 3. And this is for a different reason. I don't think it's a pressure on the Pelicans. I think it's a pressure point or a turning point in his career. And I got Trey Murphy. For all the talk this summer, and again, like Trey had a phenomenal season from the aspect of people saying, oh, this is what it looks like when he's in a full-time role, 20-point per game score, top 10 in dunks, top 10 in threes, all that stuff. Every team wants him, and then you hear him all summer long in the trade rumors. But like, to me, if I'm Trey Murphy, and I'm sure he felt this way, right? Like, Trey's a prideful guy. Am I a second wheel, a third wheel, or like, is there another level? Like, to your point, you're getting to that point where players are who they are. Is Trey is who he is, or is there another level? Whether it's, I'm not even saying like, can you give Trey the ball and like ISO? That's not what I'm asking. I'm saying, can you get to that next level of being a dominant play finisher from the 3-point line or from underneath the goal? Like, can you get to that next tier of off-ball player, right? So what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts at Trey at 3?
Yeah, no, I had Trey 3 as well. I think that's a great point about, what's that next level for Trey Murphy, and is there one? And obviously, his situation is tied, I think, to one of those guys that's tied to this Pelicans season and this how this season pans out. I think if he is, knocking on the door of a fringe all-star, right? Like, people are talking about like this guy, if the Pelicans, if the record isn't good, but they're like, hey, if the Pelicans were better, he would be, in all-star considerations. Then I think he drives up even more of his trade value at the end of the season, if that is something the Pelicans want, to see. Or if he is playing as well as he is, is he part of this next iteration of the, is he part of the next good Pelicans team moving forward around, Jeremiah Fears and Derik Queen? Because again, his skill set is so malleable. It could fit, in between those two guys, like a glove. So I think his pressure is more about, can you get this team, to float to the next level? Can you get your game to the next level? And what do you look like on the floor? What does your next contract look like? In those things. And so his improvements, or him being, a better version of himself, helps this team out, tremendously. Obviously, I think he'll be second in line as far as, shots going, or, as far as the game, he might lead the team in shots. You just never know, but he's going to be a key player for this team. And so he's got a lot of pressure on him as far as the team and the success go. But he also has personal pressure on him as far as, what are you in your career? What are you going to be, the next day? Everybody knows you as the shooter and things, but everybody's also the word around is that, you're not the best shot creator, right? And so obviously you don't, like you said, don't want to give him the ball and do it, but is there more to your game? And that's a personal kind of pressure that you have for your career.
Klay Thompson, if you Hall of Fame career, obviously he's got a couple years left before he retires. If you take Klay Thompson and you put him on name random team and you're the one option, that team probably is not that great. But he's a Hall of Famer in the role in which he played, right? He was the best at the role in which he played. That's what I'm looking for. Like, to your point about Trey, like, I already think he's a fringe all-star knocking on the door. So, like, do you have I am an all-star in you or not? Because I think that is going to be extremely telling for the direction this Pelicans teams go. I think depending on his performance, that's how the Pelicans will be judged for this summer, of not a reluctancy to movement or over ambition of what his trade value is. I think his performance this year is going to tell a whole lot of that. Who you got at 2?
So at number 2, I think, and I only think he's number 2 because I think we both gonna have the person at number 1, but like he would really be like 1B to me.
Okay.
It's Herb Jones.
Okay.
Herb Jones.
Okay.
Herb Jones in the year of 2000, the 23-24 season, shot 41.8% from the 3-point line. Okay. That would be fantastic. That is pie in the sky for me. That's pie in the sky. Since then, he's been at 30.6%.
Not good.
And 30.9%.
Not
now,
good.
In those same years, he was paid $13 million, $14 million, and $15 million. All right.
Yeah.
So this season coming up, he'll be getting paid $15 million. After this season, Herb Jones will be making $21 million, $23 million, and then a player option for $24 million. Okay. I have called Herb Jones a transformational draft pick on this podcast. I still believe that. It is one thing to shoot 30% from the field for the 3-point line, and you're making $14 million.
Right.
It's another thing if you're shooting 30% from the 3-point line and you're making $21 million, $22 million, $24 million. And so before this extension kicks in, after this season, he needs to get back to the 3-point shot. It doesn't have to be 40%, but it can't be 30% around a Zion-led team or around a Jeremiah Fears and Derik Queen-led team. And so as far as like pressure goes, like we saw, again, I will never forget the moment I watched LeBron. They tipped the ball off, and that man went and tapped Herb on his shoulder, on his shorts, and then turned his back and looked directly at Zion. You cannot win. You cannot be a productive team when your center started with, if you want to talk about starting Yves Missi or Derik Queen, however you want to start, either one of those guys, or Zion at the 5. If that's the way they was playing at the end of the season. None of those guys are shooters. Okay, none of those guys are shooters. And so if you're going to play one of those guys and then also have Zion and also like you're not going to be able to have a functional offense if one and two of those guys you can just turn your back to and walk away from. You're just not. And so going into the season, Herb used to be one of the best contracts that you could find up and down the roster, right? Like up and down the NBA, Herb Jones was one of the better values for his contract. That time you're not going to have that time for after this season. And so, 22, 23, $24 million, like you have to produce for this team at that point. And so he's number 2 on my list because if he isn't able to knock down those shots, because we've talked about all the things that can happen with Herb. You can put the ball in his hands. You can set screens. You can do this. You can do that. When the game matters, and Herb Jones is an important part of this team because he is the best defender on this team. When the game matters, you're going to have to knock down an open shot. That's just the way the offense, you could try to hide him with screens. They are going to treat him like a non-shooter, and at some point you have to change that reputation for you to at least be serviceable in those corner threes and other things. So for all of those reasons, I have Herb Jones number 2 on my most pressure for the Pelicans this season list.
Now I look at OKC, first championship franchise history. Shea plays on the national team. Best friends with Lou Dort. Got him up out of there, bro. Like, to your point, it's crazy to think about from Herb's perspective just because of what he means. He has a day in Louisiana and things like that. But to your point, like, $13 million is cute. We could take a flyer on 10 points per game, $13 million, great defense. But like in this economy and in this salary cap, you're making 20 anything. You have to be a player we trust. You're talking about a game, and there was multiple games, but you're talking about a game in the regular season when they're leaving her. What is going to happen in the postseason, right? When teams are like, we will live with X, Y, or Z shooting, that's where it really spums out. So I think that's a great call out, and I think it's an honest one. Number 2 is where I have Zion. Of course, the organization is putting a lot of pressure on Zion, saying, hey, he's our best player. We're moving forward with him, the best player. You see him working out for the first time. So, and I'm not one of those people that are like, oh, you see him working out, so now you know he's working out. There's plenty of people that work out in silence. Like, you don't ever see Nikola Jokic workout videos. You see him racing horses in the summer. Like, everybody don't have to show their workout on social media for me to trust that they're working out. I'm just happy Zion is not rehabbing this summer and is working on his game and bettering his game versus getting back to zero, right, from a health standpoint. But I look at this from Zion's perspective, and you've called this out before. You've seen the other number 1 picks come and go. You've seen another number 1 pick get traded, and Zachary Richard say, but you've seen some of the other phenoms come behind you, get to conference championship, get to the finals, get all these things, and you have 0 playoff minutes, not games, minutes to your name, to your season. And I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking, again, terrible about the Pelicans, terrible about Zion. And like, one of the guys on the podcast was like, damn, Zion's only 26. And like, you think about it and you're like, man, Zion's been in the league for forever. And then you look down, he's like, man, he's not even like to the prime part of his career. And so I put Zion on this pressure list. Less for the Pelicans. Of course, you need Zion to be the star because you're not going anywhere in the West if you don't have one of those guys. And I'm still not ready to say Jeremiah Fears is one of those guys or Derik Queen is one of those guys. So Zion is your best chance of being that. I think this is the season. You got all the workouts. You got all the hype videos. And I know Zion's had the shirt off summer video before. You're like, Zion looks great. But like, the past couple of seasons have shown you that like the young man is heading in the right direction. You got a healthy season behind you. This is like the year to me where you're either not out the league or away from the Pelicans. You either classify yourself as the guy or a guy. And so I think that this is a huge pressure situation to see where he is at in the league for himself, right? Like, regardless of the contract extension, regardless of how the Pelicans feel about him, where are you at? Because, like, when I'm looking at the top 20 list, the Team USA for the Olympic list, the top 50 under 30, whatever list, Zion ain't on none of them, right? And if you listen to you listen to First Take, you listen to ESPN, you listen to whatever, Zion's always mentioned, but for a guy to not be in a top 20 list, top 30 list for anybody, top whatever Olympic list, and always be, people are very evident that the talent is still there. So at some point, it either is going to show itself or the talent is where the talent is. And so I think this is a pressure season for him to show who he is, right? One way or the other. So either the Pelicans make a decision and say, it's never going to get there with this iteration, or we need to keep stacking, right? Because we finally figured it out. So that's who I got at 2. I'm assuming you got him at 1. So go ahead and take your 2 cents.
Yeah. I got Zion at 1. And, you know, a lot of what you said, you know, kind of echoes about what we talked about with Trey Murphy. Like, where are you in your career? Where do you want to be in the NBA hierarchy, right? I think for me, this is obviously Zion's most pressure-packed season that he's seen so far. And I think the first reason is that we've talked about this off the pod. Like, you know, a lot of those times that Zion was failing and not taking his body right and things, he was insulated because he still had all that potential, right? He was still on Team Jordan. You know, he was still getting max contracts because it's who you could be, right? This is the first time where like Jordan, you're not on Jordan no more. Like this is the first time where like people like, are you going to give him that max contract or like, do we need to negotiate? Obviously, there's no contract extension as we speak, as we record today. And so now it's like your failures are starting to affect your pockets a little bit, right? It's starting to affect, your financial standing, right? It's starting to affect your ability to maximize your earnings in the NBA. And so now, if anything, like this is an opportunity for you to either stake that claim or like you said, like accept the fact that like you're not one of those box, market guys. You can still be box office. People come see your 360 dunks and things like that. But if that's what you are, right? Like if that's what you see, we've seen the world pass guys up like quickly. And so it's not like the NBA is devoid of like young talent, right? There's a dearth of young talent out there. And so that'll be my first reason. And again, my second reason is, bruh, like the Pelicans had, I keep telling the Woody scene in Toy Story when he came home and he saw Andy had changed the whole room out with Buzz Lightyear stuff on the bed and the posters, and the pictures on the wall wasn't of him and Andy. It was of him, of Andy and Buzz. And Strange Things Are Happening to Me was playing, and it's a part of my childhood. And this is like the first time Zion has been on a team where it's like, like they're really high on this guy, Derik Queen. Like Derik Queen is getting posted all over the Pelicans the Twitter feed, and he's the one taking the admin job, and Jeremiah Fears is the one that everybody's talking about and things like. This is the first time, like Trey obviously came, but he wasn't a lottery pick. Like he wasn't a high lottery pick the way Derik Queen and Jeremiah Fears are. And so, like the Pelicans have a contingency plan, and so this is no longer put our eggs in Zion and hope that he can get it together because we don't have anything else in the bullpen other than him. This is like, okay, let's see what you can do. And can you bring these guys along with you? Because like this is the next Pelicans greats or the next Pelicans lifers. And so I think this is a season like Zion has never seen. Again, you're coming off of a healthy season. Obviously some usage things were weird with the coaching. So you get a little bit of a okay there, but you got a new coach. Like their guys behind you. Like now is your opportunity to show that what you staying healthy last season was not a fluke, and this is who you are moving forward. Again, you're just 26, so you have it's not like you're going to be out the league at this point or anything. But I liken this kind of sort of to Aaron Gordon in Orlando, right? Mm-hmm. Remember, Aaron Gordon, it was giving him the ball, he was getting a max contract, he was in a dunk contest. They were trying like hardest to make him a number one option. And at some point, Orlando was like, great player, really good player, can't win with him as the number one option. And they sent him to Denver, and he got next to Jokic, won a championship, and has become a great player in his role and doing those things, still put up 20, 22 points a game in their heyday as champions and things like that. So like, this is your opportunity. Like, if you are Aaron Gordon, there's nothing wrong with that. Like Aaron Gordon is a fantastic player. Obviously, Zion has a lot more talent than him. But if the injuries are the things that keep you back, or just not locked in, or not getting not maximizing your talent, then that's just who you are. Then that's just who you're gonna be. And so I think that Zion has the most pressure going into this team. I mean, this year. Again, I don't think it's like make or break your career kind of pressure, but it is make or break who you are as in this NBA hierarchy and how much money you're going to be making moving forward.
I would agree with that. Now, you brought up my number one because I'm going to be honest with you, Garrick. I don't know. I can't think of, and I watch a lot of basketball, I can't think of another situation where incoming coach has this much pressure on him. Jamal Mosley is my number one because if you go through the sequence of events, you hire Joe Dumars and Troy Weaver, who already are known to like certain types of players that and want to play a certain type of way. That's who they are. So you kind of knew that whoever they hired as the coach was going to be of that ilk and was going to believe that. Jamal Mosley ended his time in Orlando and 2 weeks later found a 5-year contract with a team that had 26 wins and no first round pick the year before. And then they followed up the offseason by adding no players to said roster. And then the players they're rumored to be around, like Benedict Mathurin and Miles Turner, are not defensive players like that. So the Pelicans are setting up Jamal Murray to say, look, your problem in Orlando was the fact that you couldn't score. You couldn't generate offense. Our problem in New Orleans is that we have no foundation of who we are as a team on night, and that's what you're good at. But also, we're damn dog shit on the defensive end. That's what you do best. You come fix this. We're going to give you all the offense in the world. You go get these guys to defend. You got you on football fields. We got you in Vegas Heat. You're going to get these guys to go defend. I can't think of a time in history where they're putting this much on a coach in one offseason to basically take an entire offensive roster and make them defend to some degree. And so, like, I look at this and I think it's a lot of pressure on Jamal Mosley. Obviously, he thought it was a good fit and brought his entire staff with him to say, I think this is a fit for me. You're walking into a similar type skill set best player and saying I can do more with this versus taking a year off like most people do. Mike Malone took a year off before he went to North Carolina. Like most coaches take a year off, assess the situation, and then go. But that's not what happened here. And so, like, to me, the amount of pressure is all on Jamal Mosley. Like, you know Zion can score. You know Jeremiah Fears can score. You know Trey Murphy can score. It's the defensive end that has always been the issue. I have been knocking on this podcast for 6 years now, saying the Pelicans will never be any good unless they defend. The 2 years when they went to play-ins and the playoffs was when they were top 10 in defense. I don't think that is necessarily a coincidence. And so I think getting back to that, establishing a culture based off that, like, you look at Summer League and yeah, the Pelicans didn't have any first round picks. The roster was a lot of names. You're like, oh, Kobe Buffkin. Oh, okay. Well, I know that name. Stuff like that. But like the biggest takeaway to me was not the fact that they won for the first time in like 3 years. It was the fact that like I could see the identity of the coaching staff start to take over the team. Like they were playing, they couldn't score. They were playing based off hustle and defense. And like all season long last year, you'd be like, okay, there are times, and then there'd be like times where the Pelicans would really lock in, and you're like, where is that every game? Why do you not get that? But it wasn't like an identity every night of you're in a dogfight every night. We might not hit shots, but we're going to be punching you in the face along the way. Like, you didn't get that. And so, like, I got some semblance of that in the Summer League, which was refreshing. Like, if anyone remembers Willie Green's first Summer League where he coached the Summer League team, the first thing you saw was, oh, they're playing defense. Oh, Trey Murphy is guarding Jabari Smith. Like, they were playing defense. You're like, oh, okay, this is something. And it worked well for Willie at the beginning. And so I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at Jamal Mosley, and the Pelicans are like, come save us. Like, I don't think it's Zion that they're saying it to. I think it's Jamal Mosley. I don't know if that's a fair position to be putting him in, but damn it, that's the position he's in. And so I put him at number 1 on the pressure rating, because if the Pelicans start out 3-15 and every team scores 130 points a night, everyone's looking at Jamal Mosley. You're not looking at the players because you're like, we already knew y'all didn't play defense. You're looking at the coach that was brought in to play defense. And so I think the majority of the pressure is going to be on Jamal Mosley and his staff to see what type of foundation and what type of identity he can build out of this roster. Now, we talk about the roster, we've talked about this, and we'll get out of here. There's been no moves other than DeAndre. Shout out to DeAndre Jordan trying to get to year 4, get to year 20. Shout out to him. I think the most likely moves There might be one or two small ones, but I think the most likely moves are going to be extension. Now, the only two people you really look at and say you could be up for extension, like DeJounte is eligible, but I don't think there's any chance DeJounte Murray is getting an extension from the Pelicans this summer before the season starts. Or Sadiq Bey and Zion Williamson. Sadiq Bey, I've seen his name in like some trade. I'm not a betting guy. Like I go to Vegas and don't place any bets. If there was a bet I would put, it would be that Sadiq Bey was getting an extension and on this team this year and probably next year too. Like Joe Dumars said it himself. He is the epitome of what Joe Dumars looks for in a player. Someone that can get his own on the offensive end and play bully ball, and then someone who's going to bully you on the defensive end too. Regardless of your limitation, whatnot, that is what he likes in a player. And so regardless if you're moving forward with Queen and you're moving forward with Jeremiah Fears and you're moving off Zion, whatever, you want someone to be who you are as an organization, right? Be, okay, that's the model of what we want our players to be. And I think Joe Dumars looks at Sadiq Bey, not because he's on the Pelicans, he also had him on the Pistons, and says, that's what I want. And so I would venture to say that he's going to extension. The only thing that's probably taking so long and them figuring out where the hell the money's going to come from. Because right now, the Pelicans got some maneuvering to do to get under the tax and things like that. Zion, what do you think? Do you think that this is something that gets announced before the season, during the season? I can't imagine after the season, but where do you think they extend him at all? They just play it out and see where it falls. What are your thoughts on the extension for Zion?
So I think that is why I think, Zion's contract I think that is the one thing that is being, what that contract could look like is the one thing that's like not being talked about because, Zion took that, his previous contract, the one he's on now, he took that and had all of those provisions and things in there and clauses and things in there, and no player option and nothing like that, because I think he knew like, okay, I have to did not do well this. I'm gonna take this, whatever y'all need to put in there, just put it in there. We'll do whatever we do. The non-guaranteed part and all of that. And I think that by him doing that, his contract got even more valuable possibly to other teams because, you gotta, can you get to this weight clause in there? Oh, he didn't, I can cut him. Or it's non-guaranteed. If it's bad, I can get rid of him. I'm not on the hook. There is always that optionality of getting off of Zion. And so now when you talk about like the last guaranteed year of his contract, moving forward, like I'm sure the Pelicans would love to have some of that stuff say in there. Like, hey, can we do some of this non-guaranteed stuff? Can we do some of that more? And to not only protect themselves, but make Zion even more movable, attractive to another team who just might, like the Blazers took a shot at Ja Morant. Mm-hmm. Somebody could do the same thing for Zion. Right. But at the same time, if I'm Zion, I'm like, hell no, you can't do nothing like that. You saw what I was on the floor. I did what I was supposed to do last year. I was standing in the corner like James Borrego asked me to. Like, no, we're not doing none of that. And so that, I think that's a very interesting thing that what Windhorse used to call it, the fun max is over, bro. Like we got to talk about these things. And so it wouldn't surprise me if it took a little time because I do think like the Pelicans should, try their best to get as many things to protect themselves as possible, especially with Jeremiah Fizz and Derik Queen there. And, if you're playing great, then let's roll. Like we good. Like we could try to do some things. But if not, like I want to be able to pivot in an effective way to make sure that my team, in my organization is well suited to move on after you. And so I wouldn't be surprised if it took a lot longer than a lot of people expected. I would still say that if it is going to happen, that I think the Pelicans would try to get it done just for for PR sake, get it done before the season started. If they really were 10 toes down for Zion. Like, if we are all in on you, if the Pelicans feel that way, then be all in. Do it before the end of the start of the season. Lock him in so that he knows that this team is all in. But if not, like, and if that's something like you hold out and you see what happens, but obviously you can't hold out for too long because you got to make sure he doesn't leave for nothing. If that's something that you're like, I want to just play it safe. But at the same time, I think that the Zion has all the right to say, nah, I did what I was supposed to do. And so now I don't want none of that. I want the guarantees. I want to make sure that I'm good here and that my money is good no matter what. And so I think that's it's gonna take a while to iron that stuff out.
I look at it in a couple ways. I think you're right. I think some of the language in there, some of the stipulations, some of the outs in there, you might lose some of it. I'm sure the Pelicans and Troy Weaver are going to fight to keep some of it, but you want to make sure it's still attractive enough in case things don't go right that somebody else will take it. Here's the other thing about it. Like, what does the number look like? Like it like in a time where you got guys about to make 70 and 65 million and Donovan Mitchell signing the new like if you get a Zion on a 35, like a $40 million contract, and it works, and like he turns on this season, all of a sudden you got a lot more money to play with that you don't have to make some of the decision that some of these other people are making when their best player is making 60 million and 55 million and stuff like that. So I'm just really curious to see, because I'm sure Zion wants the long-term stability, but also probably wants a lot of clauses in there that's like, yo, if it works, you gotta pay me. So like, I'm just very intrigued by it. I think regardless, there's going to be an uproar. Why would you pay Zion? Things like that. But like the other thing you got to think about is the Jaylen Brown situation this summer. All right, let's say the Pelicans really did want Jaylen Brown. They don't have anyone near what he makes in salary. So you are sending multiple players to make up for the salary anyway. And again, like, I'm not sure why people were surprised that the Pelicans didn't go free agent shark hunting. It's just never going to be the case. If you're never going to be a team that acquires someone in free agency, you either got the draft or via trade. And so if you're going to trade for someone to come help Jeremiah Fears and Derik Queen and whoever at some point, they're probably going to be someone else's asset that they no longer want. And they're probably going to be making a shit ton of money, Garrick. So like, how are you going to match salaries if everyone's making 15 million and 20? You're going to have to need 4 people to send out in order to make it happen. And so like, someone on the team has to be making substantial money. Other than Jordan Poole, someone on the team has to be making substantial money. So like, I'm just curious to see how it'll play out. I'm with you though. Like, if this whole summer is going to be like, hey, we 10 toes down, we doubling down on Zion, Jamal Mosley, like, put on the cape, like, come get us. Like, if that's the case, their actions is probably going to tell you that, hey, we believe in Zion. The extension is going to come sooner rather than later. I'm just curious to see how it plays out over the next couple months. Again, this is the NBA dead season. Shout out to football training camp, because this part in the year is hard. It's 1,000 degrees outside. Not a ton of basketball other than the TBD, the Big Three, the WNBA. Like, you just got to get through it. you just got to push through. Everybody's going on their vacations because, this is the tough time. But with that being said, we can come back with you. We got to hit our growth rankings chart. And this summer is going to be huge because, again, the Pelicans made no moves, and all their players other than DeAndre Jordan should be on the up, right? Maybe not DeJounte Murray, but everybody else should be on the up. So they're banking on internal growth. So we'll break down whose growth matters the most for this team. But what you got left for the people, Garrick, as we wrap in the summer and walk into August? My goodness.
Yeah, no kidding. As always, you never know what people are going through. So give someone a smile today. Yeah, man, it is the dog days. But we got some hoop on TV to keep us a little satiated. So but yeah, man, I'm tweaking for college football in the NBA and NFL to pick back up. So, I am a creature of habit, and my habit is being broken right now. So it is very tough. But I'm a big movie guy, so I'm going to see Spider-Man Brand New Day in a couple. So I'm happy about that. As always, follow myself at Garrick_Rattler. Follow my brother at Raphael_Rattler. Follow the page at NO_basketball, no E. That's wherever you get your socials. And most importantly, subscribe to New Orleans.Basketball. We'll see you guys in the next one.